All right, everybody, I'm really excited today. We are going to dive deep into a topic that is going to make everybody a whole bunch of money because everybody's working really hard right now to drive a ton of traffic during Black Friday. It's super competitive to get your ad spend dollars to count. And really what today is all about with our guests, AJ and Meaghan of Praxis Metrics, is about how to make all of that effort count even more and how to get the most out of that and how to collect some awesome data. So for those of you who don't know AJ and Meaghan, they're the founders of Praxis Metrics. They're good friends. I'm honored to call you guys friends. But beyond that, you've helped so many people that I know in our industry in e-commerce, so many of my friends, so many of our accelerator members. But I'm really excited to do this because every time you guys come on and share some knowledge, I learn a ton, and everybody who watches it learns a ton. So I appreciate you guys being here, and I'm excited for this training today. Thank you guys for kicking this off with us.
Of course, glad to help in any way.
Our pleasure. We always love spending time with you, man. And thanks so much. So we're ready to talk about not only Black Friday, but Cyber Monday and the rest of the holiday sales. Like this whole push from, middle October to the end of the year is just a huge time and opportunity for e-commerce companies. And we've had multiple customers and prospects come to us saying, what do I need to do to get ready? Some of you may even have seen our ads that are going on out there where it's like, look, here's how you get ready for this opportunity. So we figured this would be a great topic to kind of pull together what we've learned and help people put the kind of steps in order, especially with today's the 13th when we're recording this. There's not too much time left.
Yeah,
so
we're down to the wire now.
We're down to the wire.
I mean, and this year's crazy because, this year's super, super unique because of the way that Thanksgiving falls this year. It's really shortening this season of buying, which is greatly impacting a lot of e-commerce companies. I mean, even month to date, it's crazy what we've seen is, numbers are changing because people are expecting this whole different type of season. Mm-hmm. And we've seen some crazy trends. And so we're excited to dive in and see if we can help people make some money this year.
Well, I know what I've heard too from a lot of people that are running traffic is that it's really hard right now, super difficult. Yeah. Right. So, I'm all about getting more out of what you're investing. And so I'm definitely excited for this. And, if you happen to be watching this a month from now after Black Friday, don't worry. This is still super useful. This is incredibly useful no matter what time or year it is. I'll pass it back over to you guys. I just wanted to reiterate my excitement.
No, you're right. The same thing applies no matter what time of year. This is not once a year thing, but we're going to just focus it on the immediate things that need to be done now. So one of the biggest starting points is collection of data, right? We've always talked to our clients and said that we can't invent data. If you come to Praxis and say, hey, we want to build these amazing dashboards, I want answers to these business questions, lifetime value, retention, all that, we can't make it up unless it's tracked. So a lot of this conversation right here is going to be about collection of data and making sure that you're ready to have all the information collected on your customer journey, the marketing you're doing, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we want to make this as relevant as possible no matter what time of year. But right now, because we do have 2 weeks before Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday, we want to encourage people that right now you still have time to go and make these changes. So one of the first things that we recommend is to do an audit really quick of your Google Analytics and your tracking right now. Like, are all of your UTMs firing? Are they organized in a way that makes sense? Are you able to right now go through and see where traffic is coming from, how it's converting, right? Because if you don't know those things now, you're not going to be able to have, to AJ's point, those insights after Black Friday, right? And so we all want to be able to learn from, these 4 days are so pivotal. And what we're finding just as an overall trend is that, it used to be retail was Black Friday. There was nothing on Thursday, retail Black Friday, and then crickets, and then Monday was Cyber Monday. And it is no longer that way at all. It's really started, that bell curve has really started to even and flatten out. And now that we're seeing huge revenues on Thanksgiving online, and 54% of online purchases over this weekend are mobile, right? And so there's big shifts that are happening where you can capitalize on all of this. But if you don't have the tracking in place right now, then you're going to regret it when you are trying to analyze what we could have done better and what we could have optimized for next year, right? Does that make sense?
Yes. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
There? So one of the things before we go on, I want to talk about the tracking. There's also, if you're working with agencies, right? Sometimes multiple agencies, everybody, they all want to do the best job they can for you. but also a lot of them are going to want to attribute their sales to the Facebook team, the analytic, or the Google
email
ads,
team.
The email team. Everybody's going to be like, we did that, right? They want to claim it. And it's not their fault, but we have to make sure that each one of those agencies or whoever's doing this for you, even if it's internal, you've got to be very specific and careful about each UTM tracking link or affiliate tracking link. Even if you're split testing and everything that weekend, like everybody's got to be adamant about these tracking links. Because if they don't do that, that's where it's going to all fall under direct, or it's going to be like, everybody's going to be claiming something. You just like, I don't know where the source is. I just can't tell. And we don't want you to have that. So the one thing I want everybody to take from this right now is, and if we need to go into UTMs, we can go into UTMs. We've got a slide for that too. But the specific links, whether you're doing a social post, an ad, and every single variation of the ad needs to have its own UTM link so that you can literally look at all the things that you did over that span of time and tie that sale or that lead to that specific campaign.
Yep, including email.
Including
every
email,
single
for
email
sure.
that goes out needs to be unique so that it's tracked, and then you can go back and really organize this and evaluate what worked and what didn't work. So moving on from that, I mean, the great thing is we do still have a couple weeks left. And so if you feel like your tracking is in place and that you've got really good tracking for this year, then one of the next logical things that we would suggest everybody do is to go back and analyze last year's numbers. Too many people start planning ahead and planning ahead and planning ahead, and they don't take the time to look back and see what worked and what didn't work. Right? What did you adjust between 2016 to 2017, 17 to 18, and 18 to 19? What are you going to change? Because the market changes, right? But there are some specific things that tend to, work throughout time. I think that one of the biggest variables of this year is simply the timing of Thanksgiving, how it being pushed back a whole week really has, like you said, thrown everybody for a loop. People aren't buying right now. It's crickets. We've had a lot of our e-commerce clients kind of in a panic because revenues are majorly down year over year.
It's funny, like I'm going through this with a company that I'm advising right now, but also I have this particular brand of supplements that I'm literally waiting 2 weeks to buy, because I know it's going to come out on sale. Everyone's doing the same thing.
Yep. You're the root cause. No, we're all the root cause.
Everybody's and I'm on the wrong side of it and the right side of it. So
of course.
It's ironic.
Yeah. It is ironic. But here's the thing is you can also, if you're looking at this historical data, instead of looking at it like today's the 13th, instead of looking at year over year, date to date, look at it as a negative based on like day zero of Black Friday, and then how many days are we before it right now? If we're 26 days, what did that look like last year, right? What efforts did we do last year around this time that we're able to drive increased clicks? Maybe not, maybe the add to carts but not converting, right? But we're actually getting people researching what they want to buy, and then getting people on the retargeting, right? Getting people really, now's the time to really lock that down. So I'd say number one is doing an audit of your existing tracking for this year's sales. Number two is then going back to last year and reviewing what strategies you did, what worked, what was the timing of those strategies, and what you would do differently. Because a lot of people just have it in the back of their heads and they remember these things, but they actually don't go and look at the freaking numbers.
Or they haven't reviewed from last year yet. We'll
yeah,
get
they
to
just
it.
think about it.
All of a sudden it's the next year.
Too late.
So that's a huge point.
This week of extra time should be incentive for you guys to go back and invest in looking at these numbers again.
So specifically,
right?
That's going back into your advertising campaigns from probably end of October through the end of the year, pulling those out. Also going into your Google Analytics if you have that set up, or any tracking links that you have at all in that time span. Just focus in that area and start going through it with your team or individually. If you have an Excel, person, you don't have the dashboards, that's fine. Just get it in one place you can look at it all and understand what was working and what didn't work. Look at how sales spiked. Look at which days were doing really well. And then your email program as well. Look at how the open rates were, the days that you sent. All that kind of stuff is going to help your brain synthesize the information to set yourself up for better success this year.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about a couple core KPIs that I think a lot of people tend to forget around this time of year. One of the biggest ones is AOV. It's as simple as it comes, But the problem is, so many people right now are focusing on the discounts or wanting to know their profitability, right? So that they can know what they can afford to discount this time of year. That they forget to set up all of the upsells, all of the recommended products, all of this to increase the average order value. Because if you're selling things at 60% discounted rate and you're not increasing that cart value, it's going to yield it's gonna hurt more than help. And so AOV is a big thing that you should go back and evaluate from last year. What were you able to pair together? What were you able to upsell in the same cart that really allowed that AOV to expand and not to be hurt by these discounts? Another thing is to go back, and it seems simple, but look at your discount code,
promo codes,
your promo codes from last year, and look at what was the trend, right? Where did the people come from? How many were used? What time of the weekend were they redeemed, right? What was their average order values and discounts, the average discount per cart based on the discount codes, right? Going through these numbers and looking at last year's actual data and then looking into this year's plan and seeing if that aligns is extremely critical.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen, kind of like a side question, have you guys heard of anyone that's going to do like a pre-Black Friday sale? I almost feel like someone should just get the jump on this and, grab the attention while it's open.
For sure. Well, and that's the thing is right now people aren't purchasing because they're waiting for Black Friday. Right. But what we found is if you do have specific promo codes leading up to it, that people will actually jump the gun because it is such a great deal and they want it, that they'll purchase now and then reduce their amount of savings because it's fresh and it's in their mind, right? Yeah. And they're not overwhelmed with everything else going on.
Yeah, it might even be something like you could do for your own list. Like, hey, here's some early access to try and like spread that out a little bit.
Well, it's another one that we had done back when I had a supplement business was we would do this earlier because, hey, this is a crazy time of year. Our team is super busy. Inventory is like crazy. We're going to give you a discount to go ahead and buy now to help make it easier on us to make sure we can get it out earlier and make sure your order's all right. So we want to give you the VIP treatment right now. You're going to get XYZ savings, but we're maybe going to throw this in just for helping make it a little bit easier on us. You can come up with some really cool little copy tweaks to make an incentive for like going ahead and ordering now and just seeing if that works this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In addition, that brings up a really good point. Inventory. The worst thing to run out of inventory is this time of year. So going through and actually looking at, okay, so this year is different than last year. Your company is different than last year, and looking at, okay, can we predict with a certain amount of variability that this is the amount of inventory that we need to have on hand in order to not run out of stock and not to have an overage and a surplus of inventory, right? So inventory is a huge one, as well as staffing. What's interesting is we see a lot of these orders like end up increasing your staffing costs, and that not being taken into account in overall profitability. And then people are like, wow, we had so many sales happen, but we don't see any big, profit from this. And that's because they're not taking into account all of their costs in not just the COGS, but also their overhead.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, typically the harder you push for sales, the more customer service tickets, for example, you're going to get. And that even trickles down further if you don't have good SOPs in place and don't have the ability to take a customer service person on just for a few days to get over the hump without training them for 2 weeks. Like if you can't onboard someone quick, that's a bit of a problem too. So there's a lot of ancillary opportunities, we'll call them, instead of issues that arise with this time of year.
I was going to say staffing up on the customer service side having a plan there. Yes, it's going to drive up some costs, but imagine the wasted money that could be sitting there with all those tickets building up and be like, wow, we can't get to them all. So the customer service part, especially if you got the live chat bots, the mani chats, like those kind of things built in. Yeah, there's some sort of automation, but honestly, I don't think most people have the automation. They maybe have the automation for like 5 or 6 messages, but they don't go as deep as it would take for something like this. So maybe even getting ahead of the curve of having somebody sit down and figure out that it's an autoresponder pathway with the automated chats, but also just staffing up correctly just for a few days or for that week. But managing your costs there as well for the operations standpoint. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, definitely. One of the other things that we wanted to chat about today was, the lifetime value of your customers. We've found that there's an interesting correlation, and it's not, it's different for each specific niche and industry. But what we found is when you do discount codes and when you do have such drastic savings to acquire customers, we want to make sure that they're actually becoming repeat purchasers, and that they're coming back and either in their average order value is increased, or that they're coming back and purchasing subsequently, right? Because otherwise all of this is for naught, right? There's no point in acquiring 300 customers and making $1 on each if they never come back and repurchase from you, right?
That is where all the profit is in this industry, is the repeat orders.
Yeah. So how many people have looked at the cohort of their customers who purchased between Black Friday and Cyber Monday of last year and analyzed what they came back to purchase, when they came back to purchase, and what specifically they purchased, right? Understanding that customer's lifetime, their tendency to purchase different things, and the timeline of that, it'll allow you to really predict out when you're going to receive the actual profit from this customer, right? And B, it'll allow you to then tailor the autoresponder series and all of the retargeting campaigns that you do for these clients that hit this year, right? So we don't want to just have the one-time purchases and then that's it. We want them to come back. But if you don't know what worked before, how are you going to, guess this year? And that brings us to kind of the next point is real-time reporting, right? So we've talked about tracking. Tracking is key. If you don't track the data, you can't analyze the data. Number 2 is analyzing your historical data, and you can do that manually. You don't need any fancy tools for that. You can just do exports and look this stuff up. Yeah, it might cost you some time, but the insights that you will gather will be revolutionary and really help you strategize this year in a more data-driven way. But so tracking and then analyzing. What we really preach and specialize in is in the automaticity of the reporting side, right? The last thing that we want to do is go and spend, 30 hours to find out this one thing. And then, hey, if you want to know that again, you have to spend another 30 hours digging and finding it, right? How many of us have those, the Google Sheets where there's like 50 of them, all for one specific thing, and then nobody ever goes back and looks at it, right? And it's so annoying to see all of those man hours wasted. So, what we preach is automaticity in the reporting, turning it into a dashboard to where you don't have to go and dig up all of this old stuff. It's already in a place where it's easy to digest, and it answers your questions in a quick way so that you can go and take action. Because not only will you save that time between now and Black Friday, in creating these manual reports, but more importantly, you have real-time insights to adjust as things are performing or underperforming, right? So that is a big thing that I think a lot of people don't, they kind of set it and they're like, all right, game on, the ball's rolling, and that's it, right? And so our goal is to really help people not just rely on a static report and then wait until after everything's done. Let's take action while this is going on. Let's adjust our strategy based on the results that we are seeing.
Yeah.
I want to come back to the lifetime value part is, like we said, so important, but that directly correlates to your tracking. We can't get accurate lifetime value unless you've got the tracking set up correctly in the beginning. And that's UTMs, that's having the Google Analytics with your e-commerce tracking all enabled and set up, goals, triggers, events, all that stuff needs to be set up now to be able to enable this automation and these beautiful dashboards that we've built for other companies that show the cohorted LTV and the accurate LTV. Because there's LTV that people can go and kind of do static, and that's at least you can get that average LTV. Yeah. But if you really want to be a gangster and you really, really want to have those data-driven insights that help you exponentially grow, you've got to have that nailed.
Yeah. I think, to circle back to an earlier point you guys made too, is really understanding the attribution of the source of those customers too. And, the resources you're allocating internally or to agencies, and everyone is going to want to say that they did it, but just being really clear on where those customers are coming from and, who you have to thank for that, I think is really important.
That's a great way to put it. Who you have to thank. It's like, where did my best customers come from? What really worked this holiday season? You want to be able to what really worked and what didn't work, so that you can figure out, and next year kind of have a templated, here's our data from last year. Here's the ads that all worked. Let's combine that together. And every year you can kind of rinse and repeat almost, but use that data to make it even better next time. But we've got to track it now, put it into these things, and then take time to review it, which is going to be in January.
We could go down a freaking huge rabbit hole on attribution. Attribution is such a hot topic, and yet such a difficult thing to actually solve. And each company that we work with has, most of them default to the easiest attribution models, which is simply last click, because they don't have the accurate tracking in place to be able to associate one customer who purchased with each of their individual touch points within their marketing journey, right?
Right.
And so that, again, whenever clients come to us and they want to analyze the different attribution models and not just use last click, or not just use the default ones that are programmed into each platform, which are incredibly biased and totally skewed, it all comes down to tracking. It comes down to how accurate is your tracking of that customer through all of this. Can you attribute that person through each one of these touch points? Mm-hmm. And right now with cross-device tracking, it's not that clean, and more, unfortunately, we were in the wild, wild west of data before, where nobody was regulating this, and you could have cookies for 3 months, right? And now everything's starting to get more and more regulated and more restricted. And so actually moving forward, we're not going to be able to have more accurate attribution. It's going to be less accurate. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we're already starting to see that.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting too, because it's very likely that, a customer you have might have come in from a Facebook ad, but they might have purchased again from an email and, purchased a third time from seeing a Google ad and then being like, oh yeah, I'm at a product. So it does get really tricky, especially when it's getting, the privacy concerns seem to be growing more and more over the tracking.
Yep. It is doable if the tracking is set up right, and it takes time, energy, and money. If you don't have somebody on your team, you need to find an agency like Praxis that can help you do that, but you've got to, this is not a week-long thing. Unless you're super data mature and you've been doing a good job. This is a journey, but it's something we talk about investing in data now. Because those that invest in data now are going to have the competitive advantage. Yeah. So you got to do it sometimes. You might as well start somewhere by making sure all of your tracking is legit. And sometimes that means moving technology platforms. I know I said it. It sucks. Everybody, everybody's always in a process of moving some sort of a tech stack. But if it means better tracking, and if it means for a better communication between your technology stack, then it's a must do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So maybe you guys could comment a little bit on that. I think you kind of laid it out in the earlier part of this presentation, or this conversation really, is that roadmap. And for someone that's sitting there being like, all right, well, that all sounds great. I get that I need to invest in it, but I've got some of this set up, or I've got none of this set up, or I consider myself, more mature in the data, the data realm, if you will, or the data journey of their business. How do you kind of understand where you're at and what the next steps are? I mean, I have a pretty good idea from working with you guys before and understanding your process, but I think that might be helpful.
Yeah. The first, no matter how mature a business is, we always start with an audit, an analytics audit. We've got to look into under the hood and see what's going on. Now, if you're a startup, you're an e-commerce that has no data, that's much easier to do. It's more of, we're going to go in and check to make sure everything is set up the right way. But if you've been in business for a few years, and even if you've had a professional set it up, it's always best to go in and do an audit and understand what's going on, because it's never set it and forget it. But people want to think Google Analytics is set it and forget it. And they say, oh yeah, we're good. We set it all up. We put on the code on all the pages. Or they may even say, we have Google Tag Manager. We've got the code on all the pages. That's not even half the battle.
Well, anyone that's making changes to their website has surely broke something by now, right?
Sure.
So
definitely. And that's just a piece of it. Then you've got to have somebody go through, look at the funnel or the steps in your website, and identify the goals and the triggers and the events and the things that are critical that you need to track. And so on the pages, this all needs to be built out from the beginning so that Google Analytics can do its job. Then after that's done, it's a matter of Google Analytics is not a dashboarding tool. It's not the best thing to visualize and digest the information. So that's where you've got to like actually take that data out.
Well, and actually we have a slide for that. So
we do have a slide for that.
And let's see if this will work. So let me just present this. So what he's talking about is kind of that first stage is, you know, just like we were talking about, you have to first have the data before you can analyze it. So collection is what you're focused on, right? You need to record as much information as possible. And like AJ said earlier, like, so data is simply information. So if you want to be more informed, if you want to have a competitive advantage over your competition, then you have to know more than they do. You have to know what works, what doesn't work, where your best customers are, who your best customers are, what they want when they want it, right? And so in this first phase, really your focus is data. And really the goal is just to record as much as possible through tracking in GA, UTMs, or whatever systems you have. Even in Shopify, it's setting up the right fields, or in Amazon, setting up the right fields so that you can see what's happening.
And sometimes your tools like Shopify have an integration with GA, making sure that's all set up the right way so that it's pushing the information that is critical into GA, right? And back and forth. Like those kind of little tiny details could be the difference between recording the right information and missing the massive opportunity.
For sure. And then, you know, the other thing to really focus on tactically is SOPs, because we run into that all the time. Standard operating procedures. We run into it all the time where there's a lot of data, but it's not organized. It doesn't have the same naming convention, right? People will come in and they'll say, hey, I want to analyze all of the ads we did for Black Friday. It's like, great. So what ads specifically were run for Black Friday campaigns? And there's no specific naming convention. And we have to go through and manually tag each one of them instead of just saying, hey, every single ad we send out is going to have this kind of prefix or, you know, suffix on the end, so that we can easily sort and filter according to whatever this grouping is, right? So those are standard operating procedures. Naming conventions are huge, both in UTMs, in ad platforms, in your, oh my gosh, SKUs. Can we just take a pause there? Like understanding and having a mapping of your SKUs. What ones are, you know, bundled SKUs? Which ones are different categories, right? And having just some sort of mapping, a field map or a template that says, here's these 30 ones that are all part of the pants category or whatever. Right?
Can you be more like, so when we say mapping, what we mean is like literally a Google sheet.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
a Google sheet or Excel file where it's just broken down by tabs, whatever you need. But like, and mapping is simply a collection of all the information you need in those columns so that a dashboarding tool can pull that out and extract it.
Or any new hire. I mean,
you're right.
It's just a good thing to have because, you know, as you mature, SKUs will only get more complicated. It's not going to be less and less. So defining those up front is extremely important. So if you're in this stage right now, then oh, sorry.
I was going to add to this, like, again, where this is super useful is when you're like with the UTM tagging and the sort of naming conventions, is having, you know, a Facebook agency, like, you know, the business I'm working with right now has a Facebook agency, someone working on emails, we have an affiliate manager. And because, you know, we've sort of been in data catch-up mode, there was no sort of centralized effort to make sure that those are consistent. So you've got 3 different people, and you know, everybody has their own way of doing things if you allow them to default to do it, right? So if there's no, you know, SOP in place of, hey, this is how we would like to at our company do this, then they're going to do what makes most sense for them, right? And it's no one's fault other than, you know, you as the business owner for not having that clear directive on how to name that properly.
Yeah.
I want to double down on that because we believe you have to own your data, but you also have to own your SOPs. And what I mean is, just like you said, other agencies have their SOPs, and that's fine and dandy because they do that because they make it easier on them because most of their clients don't have SOPs. But I really feel like e-commerce owners and teams need to put their foot down and say, this is the way we do our UTM structure. Here's our data dictionary. Here's all of our naming conventions. Here's our style. Here's the way we work. And having that written out or in a spreadsheet or a document or whatever, and even the video training, you hand them this and say, we want you to follow this. This will make your job easier, our job easier, and everything's consistent. You've got to own that process. And it may take a little bit. It may take a weekend of y'all sitting down and just kind of mapping this out.
It has never in the history of companies taken us more than 40 minutes to clearly define UTMs. Never. Literally, if you just put everybody in the room and you just ask the questions, you can go through and create it in 40 minutes max. And then all you have to do is democratize that and make sure that everybody's on the same page.
And we've got some templates and suggestions.
Yeah, we do. If anybody here wants
comments on this and be like, hey, Jim, Meaghan, send this to this. We've got recommended for ads, for social, for all that. So we can help you out with that. But it's like super important what you said. You've got to own that process. And sometimes the agencies will push back, but like, then you're going to get into
for you though.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, I mean, we've got a team member downstairs who literally has spent the last 2 hours cleaning up a client's UTMs because they had FB lowercase, then capital F lowercase b, and then lowercase f capital B, and then F space B, right? And each of those comes through as a unique data point, and it's not aggregated so that you can see the success of your Facebook channel. So it's extremely important. I know we're running up on time here. Just wanted to check in.
Yeah, I think we've got 10 more minutes probably.
Cool.
You guys have some more main points to hit?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so here's the thing is, you know,
so
if
we
you're
got off
in
on
this,
a skew tangent. Where were we before?
We're right here.
We're right here. All right, we're good.
On like SOPs, right?
Yeah.
And defining these KPIs, defining the SOPs, and really getting your tracking in place is the foundation for success. And don't get overwhelmed if you don't have all of this stuff. All it takes is, you know, like we said, like schedule one meeting a week where you're like, we're going to go through and we're going to define this. And once it's done, it's easy to then go and make sure everybody follows. So our biggest thing here would be go do an audit of your GA, go do an audit of your tracking and an audit of your UTM hierarchy. That's stage one. Stage two.
Kind of plug ourselves. We do this. Our team is ready to do it. We can help you with it.
Well, I was actually going to say, I love that this is like, you know, really, I mean, this is kind of one of your guys' sales materials because you have your services on here, but this is actually a roadmap that people can use to functionally build their data maturity plan. So that's what I love about you guys. You like instruct and help before you sell anything, right? Because you want everyone to be on the same page.
We don't really sell. We just want to educate.
Yeah.
Like, this is the roadmap for 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
And that is a good point is, you know, this stuff does not happen overnight, right? Now, obviously our goal is to help speed up time to value and implementation time, but this stuff is what it takes to be a mature, fully functioning business that has the insights you need to scale, right? You're not going to have that hockey stick growth unless you know what's working and you know what's not working. So all of this is extremely important, but you don't have to, I know as business owners, I'm in the same boat. Like I have to collect data for my own business and thinking about these things sometimes makes me want to pull my hair out. Cause I'm like, if I have one more job to my plate, I'm going to kill someone. But these are the foundational pieces of information because you could be one data-driven decision away from exponential growth. That's what happened with us too, is we weren't doing everything that we could. And we ended up finding one KPI that we neglected. And just by tracking the right data, automating it, and then learning about it for our internal team, we made a couple key decisions and it yielded a 300% growth in 3 months. So we're not just teaching this because we think it's the right thing to do. It's like we've walked clients through this over and over again, and this is the roadmap. We've seen over 150 clients go through this. So the next thing is then automation, like we were talking about. Like you want to be able to see these things in real time. And one of the big things is like with the UTMs too, it's not always visible. And so a lot of people get away with things being hidden. As soon as you put it into an automated dashboard where you can see it, oh my God, everybody starts following the rules because you can hold people accountable versus when things are underneath the website or underneath the systems that people aren't checking. It's really hard to hold people accountable on your team. So next stage is just automation, whether you're doing this like, and this is really, I think there's an in-between stage where if you want to do all of this manually, you can. 100% Excel, Google Sheets, you can answer all of your business questions through that. Now, it may take a little more legwork and it might take time, but that's usually a stepping stone between stage one.
A couple hours of your day will be working in spreadsheets. Yes.
Sometimes more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, it is a good stepping stone, because what it does is it allows you to define what KPIs move the needle for your organization and what insights you have to look at. Because sometimes there's a lot of paralysis by analysis, right? Or you're looking at these vanity metrics that you look at it, you know what that number is, but then it doesn't change your behavior or anybody's behavior in your organization. You're not acting differently because you knew that number was higher or lower today, right? So in order for you to understand which are valuable KPIs versus vanity metrics, and the KPIs are key performance indicators, that manual process is a very good learning stage, and it's a stepping stone, because then you get to the point where you're so frustrated and you hate all of the manual spreadsheets and the time and the wasted human errors. And then that's what leads you to, hey, we're going to invest in something to automate and get this visualized. And then after that, honestly, it's optimization. So optimization for us is like understanding the underlying patterns of why things are happening. So I'd say everything before that dotted line is looking historically. It's looking at it's diagnosis of where you are and where you've been. Once you step into optimization, this is where you can get into predictability. This is where you start to understand the patterns and the reasons things are happening. And then you can now predict out, okay, because we have this kind of storm coming through, and because we have this kind of holiday coming in, I should then go and do this because it will yield exponential success. So a lot of people want to get there first, and they don't understand that you cannot at all without these first two stages. And then maximization is really then the sexy stuff, where it's like the buzzwords, the industry keywords, right? It's
basically every single company on LinkedIn posting about AI and predictive all the time, which nobody understands. But this is the stuff that it can get really, really incredible.
It can get powerful, and it can get really exponentially valuable to your organization. But a lot of people aren't ready for that yet. They need the foundation before they layer that on top. But it is extremely valuable. And it's something that can really change the needle. And people who get to this level, this is where that competitive advantage is. It's a huge gap. It is a huge gap because they understand the truths and the successes before they've happened. And then it's really at that point almost just printing money, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, on the note of printing money, I just want to thank you guys for another great session. I will post a link to some of the amazing dashboards that these guys are building. I know you guys help a lot of people out in the industry. They're always willing to have a conversation, see where you're at and what they might be able to help you with, or what, a good solution for you in the interim is. So, like I said, I'll link you guys in the comments, but yeah, is there any other way that you guys would like for people to get a hold of you that are watching this that want to learn more?
I mean, the big thing is we're really here to help, and we really want to educate, and we really want to help set you up for success, even if we don't work together for 6 months to a year, right? We want to get you on this roadmap and really get you set up. So feel free to email us, right? So my email is Meaghan at Praxis Metrics. It's MEAGHAN at praxismetrics.com. And his is AJ at Praxis Metrics. But seriously, just shoot us a line if there's questions on, hey, what should the top KPIs be that I'm tracking manually right now? I'm not ready to invest in anything, but I need to know what I should look at.
Yep.
Right.
We are
things like that.
We have a form on the website where you can just put in your information, get on a call with us. We go through all your tech stacks. We go through where you are and give you the best plan of action based on your data maturity. Give you the roadmap. I mean, it's what we do for free, and it's what we love to do. Plus, there's great stuff on our blog. So
yeah, you guys have a heck of a team too.
We do. 26 data scientists, for some pretty amazing people that could go to work for your company. So Alex, thank you again for the opportunity. We love doing this, and hope everybody has an amazing holiday.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to, I guess, backtrack for 1 second and add in on how helpful you guys are. I know, for example, one of our accelerator members, Jamie, you guys have been talking you've been helping him basically for a year, and he's now, coming on board to work with you guys. So just kind of the level of care that you guys have. If someone's not ready and doesn't make sense, you're never going to push them towards something that they shouldn't be spending money on. In fact, like most of the people that I referred to you guys are like, this is really awesome. We're going to make money from this right away. And I'm really excited. So thank you for always helping out. Thank you for spending your time today. And as always, can't wait to hang out with you guys again soon.
Of course. Thank you,
Thanks,
brother.
Alex.
Bye.